Hey everyone, how's it going today? And welcome back to another fourth stimulus check unemployment benefits extension update. So we have a lot of stuff to cover in today's update when it comes to the fourth unemployment benefits extension. Now, the really important thing I think to really make clear is that right now at this current time, we don't know if the fourth extension is going to be happening, specifically if it's going to be happening on the federal level. Because of course, we already talked about how it might be potentially happening on the state level. Of course, we already talked all about that in one of the previous videos, which I'll put at the very end screen. Most already saw it, but just, in case if you happen to be brand new here, the name of that video, I believe, is literally just called Official Decisions, because it talks all about what Biden pretty much had to say when it comes to unemployment. However, the big relative breaking news that's going on right now is that right now there is definitely a push by a lot of politicians that have been trying to come out now in order to speak about trying to find some kind of solution to maybe try to get around, whether it's through a loophole, but essentially the idea is to try to create an extension for as many people as can be with the unemployment. For example, recently we had one that was recently done by probably one of the most famous progressives, AOC. So AOC recently came out to speak about essentially how she's trying to press with a lot of her fellow friends, her fellow progressive Democrats, a lot of the people that are on her side, about trying to have or to try to push or find ways to do a fourth extension to as many people as they possibly can, try to have it happen, even if hopefully they want to do it on a federal level, but even if, let's say, they are not able to do it on the federal level, to maybe at least be able to do it on another level, whether it's state, regional, or just some other way to kind of just at least bring money to put it inside of people's pockets, especially during times like this. But the general idea is that if you come from a state that is currently on unemployment, nothing has ended, and you've been smoothly rolling over, but you're just kind of in that anticipation for what happens in, crazy to think, in about 1 to 2 weeks from right now, then the idea is that they're trying to do some kind of program to maybe prolong it if you're in that case. Now, if you happen to be, say, for example, in a state that has already ended unemployment, the big thing right now is that we're really just hoping for as many of those states to try to create their lawsuit right now as they can be. It is, of course, going to be a lot more difficult to do any kind of extension if you're from a state that has already ended their extension. However, there is definitely still some level of hope. There are definitely things that are physically happening, so it's not just it's not just a mental thing, but there's an actual physical thing, so it's a little bit of a balance of both. I did already make a video, I believe recently, yesterday. I believe the name of that video is literally called 14 States Lawsuits, because it talks about 14 states that are now trying to file a lawsuit, or that have already been filing, and what's been going on with their lawsuit in order to try to fight to bring back unemployment. Of course, we already all covered that, but today's update is really just going to be focused universally for anyone that's interested in hearing what the politicians are saying, what's been going on with the fourth extension, and just everything that's been going on there. So we're going to get right to it, but as always, maybe real fast before we begin, remember to smash the like button because it's always greatly appreciated. Consider subscribing and hitting the bell if you guys are brand new here for similar videos like this. We will probably also shift to maybe other finance topics, so if you guys are interested in any of that, feel free to consider subscribing. And welcome back if you guys are brand new here, or if you guys have been here for a while. Always greatly appreciate it. And as always, feel free to comment any questions, thoughts about honestly just really anything, or any particular information that you might have with a lot of the time urgency that's going on right now, and I think everyone would really greatly appreciate it. So with that being said, let's get this video started right now. So when it comes to the fourth unemployment benefits extension, the current story right now, as most people know, is that Biden has essentially left it to the states to decide whether or not they want to extend it. However, when it comes to trying to maybe do it on a federal level, the story right now is that in order to approve any kind of bill, as we've kind of been mentioning from actually basically for history now, is that it has to go through the Senate, it has to go through the House, and it has to, of course, go through the White House. At this current time that we are speaking, there is almost no doubt that the hard news maybe to take in is that the Senate is pretty much not in support of doing any kind of fourth extension, especially the Senate Republicans. And again, just speaking objectively, leaving the politics, it's just because they've already inserted politics and all this, so it's so hard to not be able to talk about that without including some of it. But the idea is that right now at this time, a lot of the Senate, most of the Senate is actually pretty much not supporting the fourth extension. And then when it comes to the White House, now that Biden has come out to speak, the story really with the White House is that they're not against it, but they're not necessarily in support of it. They're more of just like indifferent. So in other words, what's going on is that they're essentially just leaving states to decide. So they're open to that idea, but at this time period, they don't really have any kind of strong intentions. The only group of people, I will say right now, that are actually potentially trying to support a fourth extension is pretty much select people inside of the House. And this includes people like AOC, a lot of her friends and a lot of her fellow politicians inside of the House Democrats, and then of course also select politicians in just various different states that are kind of just scattered all around the country. The situation right now is that really a lot of the people inside of the House, they're trying to essentially get together to try to find a way to push for a fourth extension. But as we kind of mentioned in one of the past videos, it's the one I literally believe it's just called Can Unemployment Actually Extend After September, which I'll put at the very end screen once again. It talks a little bit about the different ways that it can legally, possibly, potentially try to extend. And the big thing right now is that at this point, it really just comes down to two big things if they want to do it on the federal level. The first is that they're either going to have Biden try to change his mind and reverse his decision. Because keep in mind, even though Biden has already spoken about what he's decided, for not just even now, but actually pretty much for even before he became president, he is known to be someone that's, you know, changing positions or changing decisions all over the place all the time. So the really real hope right now is that when it comes to the fourth extension is that the people that are trying to support it, so like AOC, Ilhan Omar, that's another representing another politician that's trying to do it. The idea is that they're either trying to have a situation where they either have to try to convert Biden to maybe change his mind so that he can maybe try to go through with it, or if they are not able to change his mind, because keep in mind, Biden is technically not against it, he just doesn't really push for it, is maybe a better way to put it. So he's not against it, but he's just kind of been sitting pretty silent about it. He just says that he's not planning to do it, but if something, you know, really particular changes, I think it's possible to potentially convince him to go otherwise. But then the big thing really that's going on right now is that because right now they've been trying to work on the fourth stimulus package, but specifically the fourth infrastructure bill. Some people call it a stimulus package because at the end of the day, it is meant to stimulate the economy. And there are, after all, at the end of the day, there are social programs into it. But the only difficult thing that's going on right now is that because currently inside of the fourth infrastructure bill, they don't really have a fourth extension. And because at this time period, Nancy Pelosi and a lot of the other actually pretty much just a lot of people from both parties are trying to work to put together the fourth infrastructure bill, both on the physical and the social level and the human and social level. So the idea is that there's a little bit of a distraction that's going on now where they're trying to put together that bill, but at the same time, there's a group of people that are trying to push for the extension. So at this current point in time is that what they're really hoping to do is that they will either have to try to convert Biden, as we just mentioned, into doing some kind of executive order, or they have to just somehow magically try to insert it inside of the new fourth infrastructure bill, especially because right now that bill is still being negotiated. I don't believe is that there is an intention in most people. However, everything can change super fast. It is actually especially true, especially with the Delta situation. And I think it's really important to notice is because at this current time, the story with Delta is that, as most people probably know, is that the cases are still rising. In fact, in raw physical numbers, we are actually in an even harder situation than we were 1 year ago, if we're talking about raw physical numbers, case counts, and all that kind of stuff. But the biggest difference, I think, between what's going on right now and 1 year ago from where we were is that right now, I think, is that because we have the vaccine, even though I know, of course, there's a lot of debate about how effective the vaccine is, the big thing is that the fact that we have it in general, I think that most people, the ideas is that there's just a lot more knowledge and a lot more personal confidence in terms of dealing with the Delta variant and all of the stuff that's been going on with the pandemic, that even though technically in case count, we're in an even harder situation than we were back then. In actual belief and certainly in action, people are starting to come out again, and I think people are really just starting to socialize and try to get out there. But you see, the idea is that because of that reason, it's just very, very difficult to kind of gauge where we think the extension and basically just honestly just all stimulus kinds of programs are going to really go forward from here, given everything that's really happening right now. But then if beyond the options that we just mentioned, I think really the big idea right now, if there's anything to take away, is that they're trying to collect as many politicians as they can to try to find some kind of loophole. And it's very possible that they may even be able to find some kind of solution that we maybe have never even heard of before. Maybe it's something that they're working on down low. Maybe there's something that's very discreet. But the idea is that the biggest thing really is that there's definitely a push forward. And I think that a lot of people kind of wanted to cover it. And the idea is that I believe AOC and Ilhan Omar right now, they're trying to gather as much support from a lot of the politicians as possible to maybe try to get people on board to try to create some kind of way, whether this means that they have to create a fourth extension on their own, or, you know, whether it's through like some kind of loophole, or if they're trying to convince a lot of the state representatives to change their minds. Because keep in mind that at this current time, I don't believe really any states have made any kind of firm decisions. There are states that have kind of speculated on a belief to maybe try to do an individual extension, but at this current time period, there just hasn't really been anything particularly confirmed. But the big thing is that going into next week, because as crazy as it is to think that we are literally on the final stretches, is that we probably will be hearing a lot of news, but that there's at least a push that's now coming from both sides about the fourth extension. So, but with all of this being said, that's pretty much what I really just wanted to cover in today's update. So if you guys maybe found that relatively insightful, huge thanks. If you guys watched through, maybe consider smashing the like button if you guys haven't done so. As always, consider subscribing for similar videos like this, and feel free to comment any questions, thoughts about honestly just really anything. If you're watching this on release date, have a great happy Friday and weekend. And with that being said, hope to see you guys next time. Thank you guys so much again.